So you know the history of serverless started like functions as a service, but over the years we started defining it loosely as mindset and new agility because it helps us build products faster and MVPs. And a mission of this group has shifted into trying to reduce the gap between IT and business needs to help solve business problems so the business drives forward faster. And this meetup is example of that topic. So I've been approached by a number of companies offering to talk about their products. And yes, this is going to be a topic about segment, but it's a long journey how we arrived to this segment. So every time, like these serverless times, have heroes and have leaders in the space. So we live along Joe Emison, and we're lucky to know him. He's one of the serverless leaders who is creating startups like they're on conveyor belt, one after another. So when he's sharing his architecture, we would go through the diagram and say, oh, we want to learn something else. Oh, yeah, let's invite them to one of the meetups. So this is a cover from one of the real offline meetups we had 3 years ago, maybe. And then, oh, Cloudinary, they're coming to a Smashing conference in Toronto. Let's have them over to talk about us. Then we partnered with Jamstack Toronto to talk about Netlify, and have Netlify come like 3 more times. When COVID started, we were lucky. We got the ability to invite people from all over the world, like Ben and Joe. So he gave a talk in 2019 in New York, Serverless Conf, about building his latest startup company, insurance company, on Amazon serverless tech. But what got my attention was how he used business analytics in Google Cloud and using BigQuery, and how he used Fivetran to move the data over. That completely kind of turned my attention to that domain, and we had him talk about what he did for the company. In that meeting, in that meetup we hosted over a year ago, Joe explained that one of the key reasons for success of his company that he's using Segment as a customer data platform. I did not know what that buzzword was at the time. So then we got lucky that Twilio acquired company Segment, and we got a matchmaker to introduce us to Ben and teach us what it is about and how it can help companies like yours to get more agility. So you don't spend time in the garage developing, playing with the wires, but really using managed services and these products to excel faster. And I hope you're not the last time with our meetups. Like on the Joe note, like his last startup is now unicorn. Over $1 billion valuation, and he's going to come in October. He's finishing the book with a partner, talk about what he did, and hopefully we're going to go through his latest stack and see what we are missing, what else we can learn from him. And then looking back at 35 years of my career, like one of the rare languages that did not die is SQL. And with the arrival of cloud warehouses and ELT pipelines, it's becoming more popular than ever. So I'm trying to invite Kathy, the author of this book, to talk about SQL in the kind of new light. And she did not confirm yet, but Kathy, if you're listening, hope you're going to be with us sometime in September. This is tentative date, and we can move it for any time that's good for you. We also need folks like Hugo, who just volunteered to help us with upcoming topics. So anything that's altruistic, that's helping communities, not for the purpose of pitching, is welcome here. Let's see. We are lucky to have Manning Publishing be our sponsors. If you do the bit.ly.ServerlessTO form survey and stay until the end, you're eligible for any of the products they have. So thank you, Manning, for sticking with us. And now, Ben, thank you. It's really good to have you here, and looking forward to learning about CDPs and Segment. Please take it away.
Hey, everybody. Good afternoon, or whatever time of day zone. My name's Ben, and I'm here to talk to you today on customer data platform. Hold on a second here while I look for tab and starting the slideshow. All right. Feel free to toss questions in the chat. I'm going to try to watch it on my second screen here. So, Daniel, interrupt me or flag me if I miss something, but I'm okay with the idea of being interrupted during the thing. If you have a question, we can stop and hash it out a little bit. So let's see if we can get started. First of all, I want to say thanks for having me here with you, and I want to provide my contact information. One of the things that I find most rewarding in my career is being able to hang out with people who are building cool stuff and figuring out ways that I can enable them to build even cooler stuff. So when I say reach out, please don't be a stranger. I'd love to make friends, get to know you, be part of your story in some way if I can. And even if it's not necessarily in my professional capacity, just being around this kind of creativity and this kind of interesting engineering problem solving kind of thing really touches a core part of me. And so I want to get to know you and be part of your experience. Anyway, there's enough about me. Let's move on and get to the idea of a CDP. What is a CDP? Funny enough, as I was sitting here preparing the presentation, my son walked in and saw where I'd scrawled on a note card in really bad handwriting. And he said, "Dad, what's a cop? And what's that got to do with your job?" It's sort of a new term. It's not something that just gets thrown around. People don't necessarily hear CDP on a regular basis. I know it was brand new to me when I started with Segment. I'd never heard of the type of product before. So there was a massive learning curve as I tried to figure out what this was and how I was going to be part of the developer experience for it. A customer data platform is really about taking care of all of your customer data, but doing it in a way that makes it easier to provide to the business. So let's take a look at kind of maybe where your world might be. You might work in a company that has a website and a mobile app. And if you have one mobile app, you probably have two because you have the Apple and the Android. But you're building these products, right? And they're how you interact with your customers. You have data behind them. You have warehouses plugged in, but they're sort of disjointed. Maybe they've been joined together, and you've got a fully unified system that's now operating in all sorts of fun ways that take care of your customers and delight their experience. But what happens is we come in and we start to make modifications, and so the pristine environment that we built sort of gets away from you. Over time, you add on like the messaging component, and then maybe the marketers come by and they say, "Hey, we want to use this tool. Can you plug it into the system so that we can extract data from our products to get insights into our customers?" And you go, "Okay, well, we can build that." And then sales and support come by, and of course they want all those same kinds of data flowing into something like Salesforce, whatever your product is there. But you start to build out this chain of things. The analytics folks come by and, "Hey, we'd like to plug in and have the data extracted where we can start to run machine learning algorithms against it, or provide some sort of AI component." Maybe it's just simple reporting. All of that stuff keeps happening, and we keep having to bolt it on. So our original product, may have worked really well by itself, but when you start to add in all these things that have to call data out, you end up usually doing that by making a call from the front end application that says, "I'm going to send the data to whatever tool," right? And so you build the first one out and the second one and the third one, and now you've got this whole list of calls that have to be made in conjunction with the work you're doing to take care of your customers. So your customer experience starts to suffer because you're devoting more and more time to keeping all these back-end tools connected. And if there's a data change of some sort, some kind of schema adjustment, now you're having to go back and put engineering hours into solving that again and keeping it up to date. And so all of this happens while you're trying to take care of customers, and you run out of time to take care of the customers. So their experience is actually suffering. It's sort of a Schrodinger's customer problem, because you're spending all this time trying to see what they're doing, and the things you do in order to see what they're doing are preventing you from being, as successful at taking care of them. So architecturally speaking, how would we solve this problem? It's a fairly simple problem if you just sort of scratch it out on paper, right? You're going to create sort of a bus. And this is what a CDP really is at its core. Sort of the beginner's use of a CDP is that we're going to be able to straighten out the diagram, and we're going to have the sources on one side feeding the information into one single location, one centralized place. And that centralized place is then going to route the data to all the different destination tools that we might want to include. So maybe you don't stop at 5 destination tools. Maybe you've got a whole series of advertisements that happen where you've got Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and all the different social channels that all have a different advertising, strategy paradigm that you have to match into. You can put all of this in a CDP very easily because you're no longer restricted by having to make code changes to your main products anymore. The data flows out of them once, and it flows into everything else in whatever way you want to do it. And there's more to it. So that's the beginner's use case. But then what really happens with a CDP is you get the ability to correlate all of the events across all of these different channels to a single customer identity. You can say that Ben logged into my website and Ben logged in through the mobile app, and he did these things and he added these things to his shopping cart, or he took these actions, or he requested these services. All of that stuff, all of those events and the way that they were performed are stored now in a centralized place, or they're not necessarily stored, but they're pushed through a centralized place that then distributes the data as appropriate. One of the cool things you can do along the way is you can start to group those behaviors. So if you start to see a lot of people behave in a certain way, you create, you guessed it, segments. It's like a dad joke built right into the product name. But you get to create this idea of customer segments that now you can start to treat people more personally and based on the activities that they perform when they interact with your systems, you get to behave differently. So an easy common use case here would be like creating a loyalty program. Earn points by purchasing products, and then you can you can cash in those rewards to do things. You can build that reward system based off of the customer data. And maybe it's not about necessarily purchasing something. You can get out of the e-commerce world and you can talk about just viewing videos on your site. Or if you want to provide some other activity that they can perform, maybe they play a video game that's a browser-based video game in your site, and the higher they score in the video game, then the more rewards they get, or something like that. You can create those kind of experiences just based on data that it looks at how customers behave and starts to group them together. You also get the ability to trigger actions based on that data. So maybe once I've created the group, I can say, hey, anybody who's purchased something in the last week, I'd like to poke them about leaving a product review. Did you like that product? Was that a good product? I can now send you an email, or I can send you a text message, or by whatever communication channel your customer prefers, you can start to engage with them to keep them interested and excited in your products. And then normalization of data. This is a big one in the engineering world, because you're usually looking at those schemas going, oh my gosh, everything's different. I don't know what to do with this. Take, for instance, the mobile app team at your shop may have built the mobile app product with a field named phone_number. And then when you go look in the main website, it's just called phone. Now what do? Those are going to show up in the data as two different things. Using a CDP, you get the ability to start to normalize those. You can funnel both of those fields into a single thing, call it what you want, phone number, phone_number, whatever your centralized pattern should be. And then you publish that to all of your destinations simultaneously. Because think back to the spider web design, right? When you're looking at the spider web of things, what usually happens? Somebody shows up with an Excel sheet that they've downloaded out of this product, and another Excel sheet that they've downloaded out of this other product, and then they've tried to correlate them together, and they say this data doesn't match, your system is crap. And that's a horrible experience from the engineering perspective, because the data is as good as what was passed into it. But now you have to spend extra time and research hours proving that the data is safe to use, that it's correct for what's needed. So the ability to normalize this on the front end makes it much easier, because everybody is going to get the data in the same way. Unless, and this is the last point, you may have cases in whatever your regulations are that your company has to meet. You may have cases where you can't pass certain types of data into certain tools. So maybe your security team has decreed that you cannot pass customer identifying information, PII, into a certain tool. But you want to plug that tool in just like you do all the others. Well, a CDP should give you the ability then to filter those things, so that now certain tools will get these data points, but not those data points. And further, you get an easy centralized place to manage this. So when the auditor shows up, you can throw that filter back at them and say, hey, here's the information. Here's how we decide where data goes. And here's how you can guarantee that certain types of data aren't going to certain systems. So those are kind of the features that are there that we might build on. So I'm going to take just a minute and kind of walk you through the product. Oh, I see a question popped in. Ida, you've got your hand up. Go ahead.
Hey Ben, the last statement you have is kind of interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
Are you suggesting if a company already have like a data lake or something, and then there's also that filter ability that you talked about, which one is the data storage for, like, and what is the use cases for them for this filter function?
So generally speaking, the filtration function is designed for just what I was explaining there with the idea of a regulated environment. I'm going to back up a couple of slides here, get you back to this picture. We would generally position a data warehouse as one of the destinations. So over on the right side there, and the CDP would pass the data into the data warehouse at the same time it's passing it into the other tools. So if, for instance, you had, they use the Facebook icon there, for example. So if you had Facebook advertisement that you wanted to do out of your product, your marketing team, desperately needs to be able to market the product, and they're going to look for advertising any way they can get it. But security is also going to look at this and say, you know what? I don't know if I want that data being sent to Meta. That's a little too much information, and that's not good for privacy concerns and things like that. So what we would do then is your data warehouse would be, you can see like the IBM logo there, right? So let's just imagine, we know IBM's big at data. So they have a data warehouse sitting next to their Facebook advertising, but they don't talk to each other directly. They talk to Segment to get the data they need. And Segment then has tracking plans where you can design, when data is flowing to the IBM destination, this is what data is allowed to go. And so your data warehouse gets everything. It's allowed to do that because maybe you built it on-prem, maybe you've got whatever security safeguards around there that SecOps has blessed you for. But whatever the case is, you've got that data in a secure location. Whereas with Facebook, we don't know what's going on Facebook, right? That's kind of a scary thing sometimes. And so we want to limit the amount of things that flow there. And so we can narrow that focus and say, these are the fields that I'm going to allow the Facebook destination to pick up, where the data warehouse could get everything. Did I get to your question there, or is there something more specific that I can look at?
No, that's fine. Thank you.
You're welcome. So moving on, I want to take a minute to point out before I get off of the slide page here that you can create a free workspace on segment.com, and it will be free forever as long as you don't exceed 1,000 identified users. So the use case for such a free tool might be building the proof of concept and plugging it into one of your test environments so that you could show coworkers, executives who have to make the buy decisions, the value of the product. You'll be able to plug in 2 sources for free, and you'll be able to use up to 1,000 identified users. So those are the limitations before we start charging. Also, if you're in a small startup, I don't necessarily know what the audience segmentation looks like tonight, but if you happen to be in a small startup, we have a startup program that provides credits to companies that are within certain financial ranges, because we've recognized that customer data is really important in those startup communities, and they don't always get the ability to just go spend money to build out a CDP. So we have ways to help them out. Daniel, go ahead. Are you still on mute, Daniel?
Sorry, yeah, I made a comment questions for the end. Now I cannot wait till the end. So you got me excited with 2 free sources, 1,000 users. How about destinations? So everybody needs a data warehouse. Is that free
destinations,
or that's?
Yeah, you can use any destinations. I think data warehouses may be a advanced tier product. I have not familiarized myself with all of the product tiers yet.
I tried.
But that is definitely something that's out there. There are certain limitations. There are certain features of Segment that you have to purchase the pro plan for, and those things would become readily apparent once you sign into the free one and click around. There's little helpful dialog boxes that pop up and say, when you go here, you need to contact a sales representative and things like that. But the bare minimum, like, let's get data flowing and let's validate that we can send the events where they need to go, and that we can start to do some of the basics. That's all free forever, because we want to make it available for people to tinker with and try out, and then come back and talk to us about. So yes, by all means, go sign up for a free workspace and kick it around. If you have a simple Java website, in fact, maybe before I talk too much about what that's capable of doing, I'm going to change my sharing here to pick a different tab. Oh, good. It didn't sign me out yet. Oh, it did. Yes, it did. Give me just a moment here while I reconnect my credentials. No, it's going to hate me. Just a moment. I totally should have checked this before. Demos are always like this, right? Suddenly the session timeout.
No problem. I see Jessica is taking initiative to connect on LinkedIn, so feel free to do that. If you're not connected, we can post the LinkedIn profiles.
Oh no. I may have a problem. I can't seem to get in. I think we've had some security fun this week with some phishing stuff that's been going on, and all of the rules changed. So I may not be able to show off the product right away. I'm going to spend a few minutes on this, Daniel, if that's okay. I don't know if I can
Hey,
hand
no
this back
problem.
to you
No
temporarily.
problem.
And then,
No problem. We can
you know, we
chat the
can
network here
Q&A.
while you're trying to troubleshoot that. We had worse things. We had
Sure.
connectivity get lost to Italy. It took me half an hour to find the presenter to page him. So guys, so we're gonna cut this part out from the recording, and then let's give him a couple of minutes. We can chit chat here. So Jessica from Peru started. Good idea. We connect on LinkedIn, and so we can do that right now. And then who here is using Segment already? Like I only knew Francois, but he's not in this group. Go ahead, speak up. Like feel free. You don't need to raise your hand.
We are not using Segment, but we are getting our hands on a CDP. Yeah.
Segment CDP, because it's becoming a new vertical, and now everybody's trying to chip in, like to advertise they can do CDP. So are you thinking Segment product or something else that's also CDP?
Something else that is also CDP.
Cool. So you're building it in-house from. You're building it or buying it?
And no, I think from my perspective, I'm just interested at this point. Thanks. Yeah.
I'm learning about the problem domain myself, but it looks to me like it's combination of ETL and reverse ETL. You get data in, you get data out, assuming data warehouse is a center. But then there must be something. The only complaint Joe Emison had about Segment was $14,000 a year cost. But this is nothing for the company. Like he sells insurance in like 12 states in US. So that's a peanuts compared to what he would be paying for developer team. And so there is something to it that I want to see, understand. Anybody else using Segment here? Yeah, go ahead. Jason.
Sorry, is CDP, is it a replacement for analytics? Or?
No, it's custom. It's a data flow. You saw like there is lots of point-to-point connections in the enterprises. They were teaching us, do REST services, and now you have network of everything. Everybody talking to everybody, and somebody has to map the data. So Segment, like what I've seen on a Gartner, position itself like the tool to find the segments of customers to target. And I believe, but we're going to learn that in October, that Joe's insurance company is using it to curate leads and prospects and see what types of insurance they need and which campaigns to set to them. So it's kind of automation to flow data between different systems you have. Phones, leads, bug tracking systems, all these connectors. But I know nothing about Segment itself, so that's why Ben is here.
Oh, I see. Thank you.
Anybody else? I wish Francois is here. He doesn't like when we record meetings, so he shows up. Are you lucky? Are you in, Ben?
I am not having any luck. I did want to pop in and say that you did a very good job answering that particular question, though. Segment is not here to replace analytics software, but simply to make the data easier to get to. So we would position Segment very much the way that I was talking about a few minutes ago with Ida's question, that the CDP lives right before your big data warehouse in the same kind of way, where we're going to feed data in, we're going to make sure that it's been curated to some degree, it's now organized in the same fashion as all the other tools. The problem we're trying to solve as a company is how in the world do we manage this ecosystem of all the different people who are going to ask for that customer data? And so the reason that we call it a customer data platform is that we're positioning it as a platform that we would provide to other parts of the business. If you have a tool, and there are myriad tools out there, the diagram, you almost can't even see all the little icons on it. It's so packed full of different tools that are available to consume and do things with customer data. We want to make it so that it's easier for you to do that without being locked into them. So what we find is, vendor lock-in occurs. Think of like if you're using straight Google Analytics today, and Google is deprecating the universal analytics to be replaced by their new flavor, the GA4. That's going to be some work for some teams because it's not a rip and replace kind of change. There's engineering work that has to go into that. If you had segment in place, the change is a lot lighter, because it's basically you stand up your GA4 instance and you make sure the configurations work the way you want, and then you just turn on or turn off universal analytics when you're done. It's a very simple replacement with a lot less code involved.
I'm thinking, like, if you're going to have outage, like to get to segment, maybe we can use this to talk about what you wanted to talk in general. Like use it as interactive sessions. So Q&A we're supposed to have at the end, have it now, and then you can record whatever you plan to do, record after the fact, and we're going to stitch that in a YouTube video. What do you think about that? I don't know how much time you need. I want to kind of use the time for the rest of the folks. Well, Ben, what are you thinking? Like, are you going to try to get in?
Yeah, I'm trying to reach out to our help desk to see if I can get some help with my account. If you want to do a Q&A and have people chat for a little bit, then I'll be back as soon as I can get things rolling.
Yeah. But we cannot talk about segment because you're the only one who's expert here. So take your time, take 5 minutes, and if it fails, then you're going to continue with Q&A. Like, people will just throw in the questions. I would like to know differences between CDPs and reverse ETLs. Or 5 trends, or like, I know people can use many things, or do you keep data in there? Like, there is many things we are curious about, but take your time now. So, okay, folks, we can chit chat about other things. Feel free to open the mics, and so maybe we can go back to Hugo, because the initial part when you join in will be removed. So when you introduced yourself, Hugo, if you're around, you can kind of, now that you see what we're about and what topics you have, maybe you can suggest something, and group will vote if they like to see that in the next meetup or next couple meetups.
Yeah, sure.
If you can reintroduce yourself for people watching on YouTube, if you leave this part in.
Okay. So just to give a brief introduction about myself again, I'm a technical solutions architect working with Google Cloud. My specialization is DevOps and SRE. I work with a bunch of engineers who are responsible for building cloud native solutions and interacting with customers, helping customers build cloud native solutions. My team and I, we work with pretty much digital natives and startups, and so we pretty much lead those kind of organizations to build on GCP. Our mechanism of leading is pretty much around is built around empathy, which is how Google thinks about technology. We try to answer the why, the what, and the how. And that's the mechanism we lead with. We're made up with a bunch of we're comprised of a number of specialists. So in my team, we have data specialists, we have AI and ML specialists, we have DevOps and SRE, we have infrastructure specialists. And what I was mentioning to Dan is pretty much a proposal where we bring some of these specialists to have a conversation with the team here, with the community here. We want to be part of this community because we feel that we can bring a lot of unique perspective to the table. We want to learn from this community, so it's not one of those things where we want to do all the talking. No, we want to listen, we want to learn, we want to contribute, because open source is at the core of Google's innovation framework. So yes, that is pretty much about me. Prior to joining Google, I worked with Thomson Reuters, where I led site reliability engineering and DevOps. And I was one of the senior engineers responsible for a number of the cloud native transformations that happened in TR. So yeah, it's great to be part of this team, great to be part of this community, and I'm very curious to learn about what kind of solutions would you like us to bring to the table.
So it's a two-way street. Like, what do you think helps impresses customers the most? Like, is based on what you've seen, we recorded on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like, is there anything specific you have in mind? We did have guests from Google talk about Vertex, talk about a data flow. Like, I don't know, there was something about ML for a passport, getting the data from text, I think, to analytics. So
yeah. So what we see is a variety of several things, right? First of all, we see that cost in the current economic climate is a very critical subject for a lot of customers. So we see customers thinking in that line of, how do I drop the cost of my engineering infrastructure? At the end of the day, engineering and technology is great, but that's not the product, right? The product is the actual solution that the customer is selling. And so customers are beginning to think in that line of, how do we reduce the cost of infrastructure? And this is really where you want to think about serverless. This is really where the concept of serverless comes into play, like, right? Because you pay for what you use. It's really the flexibility of the cloud itself, right? Beyond reliability and scalability that you can build across static infrastructure, you really want to think about serverless very critically as part of your infrastructure ecosystem. So we are seeing a lot of shift from having customers run static infrastructures to customers running more serverless and more more flexible dynamic infrastructure. So it's a combination of things, and I think one of the ways we thought we could help is to really share that perspective, right? Introduce that perspective and share solutions that we see people building, and some of the solutions that we've built ourselves.
I like that. So this is sample. Ben is smiling. Looks like you have access.
Okay.
Do you?
Are you good?
Yes.
Or you just like Hugo's presentation?
Both.
Okay.
Both. I've always been interested in the serverless space. It's an interesting space because it changes so many paradigms for infrastructure engineers. And I actually did some time in infrastructure design before I moved to developer advocacy. So it was an interesting thing to watch the old world try to figure out what the new world was. And we told a lot of those same kinds of stories, that it really is about paying for what you use rather than building huge things and having to let them sit in the corner forever unused. Yeah.
To me,
But we can
segment is even
if
serverless.
you're ready.
You can go on. You can log in. Yeah. Look, so you're going to take.
Yeah.
To me, even segment is serverless. I use Joe Emerson's definition of serverless. As long as it's not my SLA, I'm fine. It's serverless to me. I don't care how you run it. So it's a really loose definition. So go ahead, take it away.
All right, we apologize for the inconvenience. Those responsible have been sacked, but I should be ready to roll now. Let me see if I can share my screen, and this is going to look weird just for a second here while I switch tabs. Okay. So this is a segment instance. What you see on the left are the sources that we have plugged in. This is one of our demo environments that I have access to. I really do, I promise. It took me a minute to get it back up and running. And then on the right side, you see the destinations where we're sending data from this platform. So I'm going to take just a minute and talk you through one of these JavaScript sources. So before we look in the segment part, we can switch tabs here and we can see a generic e-commerce kind of site, right? Here's some athletic wear. And so maybe I'm shopping and I'm interested in going to shoes. And in particular, I'm looking for these because I want to take my dog out in the middle of the night and I don't want to have to stop to tie shoes. So I'm going to buy those and I'm going to look in my cart and hit checkout and I'm ready to do that. Now, things that just happened. Let's go over here to the e-commerce website source. So this is a JavaScript source of segment that when you set it up, we give you the script snippet to plug into the DOM. And we say, hey, if you paste this in here, you're going to get data flowing to your segment instance. So setup of a new JavaScript source is just a few minutes and you're up and running. You have to make one minor code change to make it so that your app can talk directly to the CDP. And then everything after that is configuration within the CDP. There is one caveat to it, and that is that you will only get page views recorded if you follow this particular pattern. There are other methods available to you in that analytics.js library. And actually, it's not just a .js. We have several different flavors of that. It's been rewritten in Kotlin and Python and Ruby and several other languages. I can't remember the entire list off the top of my head. But we've tried to make it sort of a polyglot where there's an analytics available regardless of what your language is. Anyway, you would use other methods, which we'll actually see. If we go over here to the debugger, then you can see that there's traffic that's come in even just in the last few minutes. And so somebody clicked the men's link and somebody added a product to their cart and somebody viewed their cart and somebody hit checkout. So all of this data is made possible by segment. Now you'll notice here, this says page and this says track. The page calls are the ones that would be available if you do that script snippet that was on the previous page in segment there. So that's all you would get is just the things that say page. The track methods are the other types of calls that you can make, and you actually get a copy of the call here logged when we do it. So you can see that we used analytics.track and you get to pass whatever data you want. So imagine whatever the scenario is in your website. You might want data on just the way people navigate certain screens because you're looking at user experience and you want to make sure that you can provide a cleaner experience. So your CX team or your UX team would be looking at this to try to figure out if the customers are getting lost as they go through whatever the flow is of your application. You could look at this from the perspective of tracking what people are purchasing, you know, in an e-commerce kind of environment. Or you could look at this in you know, some of the more offbeat use cases we've heard about are things like video game systems, reporting what kinds of activities are taken within the game. So those kind of things are possible. It really comes down to anything that you could possibly want to track from within your application. You have to provide a call from your application when that occurs. And then we take it from there. It flows into the CDP. And then we'll go back over here to connections so we can see there are destinations plugged in. And so if we look at the JavaScript, you'll see it says 23 destinations. You can choose that certain sources don't send their data to certain destinations. You can also choose that certain sources send only part of their data to destinations. But data from the JavaScript apps, 23 of our destinations, which is pretty much all of them that I think are loaded here. And you can see a variety of different things here. There's amplitude and Facebook pixel. And we talked a little bit about Google Analytics earlier. You can even send things to Twilio SMS. I actually saw a blog posting from one of the Twilio DevRel folks who she built a thing on her website that every time somebody hit the front page, it sent her a text message. Now, that's not really practical if you have a lot of hits, but in certain cases, just the ability to send a text message as a result of some activity being taken on your website could theoretically be a great, engineering sort of use case. How do we know that something's, broken horribly? How do we alert the engineers as fast as we can so they can get started fixing it? Those kinds of things might be possible. It's really your imagination is the limit. So that's sources and destinations. And the idea here is that just creating one simply, like if I go into the Snowflake one, it's really just a matter of adding some connection data. So you can see, here's my user ID. There's where my password would be. I can put my credentials in there, and suddenly this thing goes. It goes on a selective syncing schedule. So I can choose, if I'm paying my data warehouse fees per call that's being made to send data, I can batch those up and save myself some money. The feature is there to be able to control that. And then let's talk a little bit about some of the other stuff that happens. So once we have people using our application, one of the other calls in that analytics.js is an identify call. And so you put this in the login feature of your website, and as soon as people log into your website, you've now identified them as a specific user, and you can start to build this persona of that user. So I'm going to look here at Kathleen and see what we know about her. She has allowed us to opt in to emailing. We can see her email address listed there. This is, of course, you can see the AOLX. So these are test users that are just being thrown around in the system, so we have data to look at. This is her IP address. Got her name and stuff there. I can see when she last placed an order. And then we have the ability to create something called computed traits. We can start to push data back into Segment here to say, this customer has an average review of 3.5 stars on our website. We can see that when she receives emails from us, she's clicked 12 of them. So if we start to correlate that with how many times we've tried to contact her, we can find out if email is a really good way to reach her or if she would prefer some other way. We can start to see what products she's viewed. One of the coolest use cases on computed traits that I've heard about was an e-commerce site that discovered that some of their users preferred certain colors of things, and so they started only giving them promotions for things of that color. So I really like blue. I only look at blue pants and blue shoes and blue shirts, and so the site learns this through these computed traits and then gives the marketers the ability to say, hey, we have a sale on this, and here's the blue version that you might really like. So it just gives you a way to personalize a little bit better. You can see long-term value is what the LTV stands for here. So we can see that she spent $1,200 with us all time. That's important information because we might decide to run an ad campaign where we're only giving her, we're only giving our big spenders the coupon. Something like that can really, balloon on you if you're not careful. If you give 50% off the website, then the coupon goes to the entire customer base. You might hurt your margins a little bit, but if you focus only on the big spenders, then you have the ability to get a lot for what you've done. So it's a way to personalize it and engage with your customers better. And again, don't just think of this in terms of e-commerce. That's the easy examples to talk through and kind of get people to connect with. But you can do just about anything once you use those track calls to track the appropriate information. Then it's a matter of finding out which users have that, and then what do we do about it? So let's go over here to audiences and look at what happens when you start to put groups of things together. You can see, for instance, here, we created a group of people that we're going to send a $25 referral to. And so if they refer a friend, we're going to give them a $25 credit. And you can see how to build it. And so it's really just plug and play. So we look for the custom trait that says, launch date within the last 90 days. They viewed a product at least one time. I was looking to see if I could show here. So the audience key, simple data there. But then you plug those audiences into these journeys. And a journey is where things get really fun. So let's take, for instance, product review. I want to nudge a customer to give more product reviews. So I look for the group of people who have made a purchase but haven't reviewed it yet. And you can see how to set those up. You can plug those audiences in here so that you start to grab profiles based on computed traits. And we wait for a day to make sure they have a chance to give the review. And then we check, have they reviewed the product or not? Oh, I'm sorry, didn't mean to click the button there. If they've reviewed the product, then we can send them an email to say thank you and maybe give them a coupon for 10% off their next purchase or whatever it is we want to do to engage that customer. If they haven't, we can follow up in a different way. So we might send them, a text message nudge. Hey, tap this and you can go review the product that you just purchased or something like that. And then we wait a week and see if it worked. And then we can go back and do the thing. So the real power here, this is all marketing stuff, and it's not necessarily what engineers want to play in. But the power of this is that it's been made easy enough to do through the CDP that you can self-service this to your customer base. And as an engineer, if you imagine, marketing showing up and saying, hey, we want to find everybody who hasn't given a review, and we want to send them an email, and then we want to see if they've reviewed again, and then we want to, you'd be spinning up a project of some sort, and you're having to assign engineering help to build this thing out. And that's just a lot of work that we don't necessarily want to do as engineers. We want to let the marketers focus on marketing and leave us free to go build more cool stuff. So the idea of self-servicing this and making it easy enough that you can hand this off to your marketing team and say, go build what you need to build. The platform is now in place, and we're going to support the platform for you and make sure it's up and running and everything works. But you get to design how you interact with customers. That's what we want to release the company to be able to do. We want the business units focused on the business things, and we want the engineers available to go build more cool stuff. So there's sort of a quick overview of what you'll find in Segment. There's clearly a lot more that we could do with this in terms of being creative about how we use things. I'm willing to open the floor now for some questions and see if this has caused anybody to think. What would you like to see more of or ask about?
Well, this last flow was amazing. But I've seen something like that in high-end CRMs for mortgage brokers and real estate guys, that you design the flow and campaign, and then, but you can feed anything here. It's not just the website behavior. It's any source that you get. It's powerful. But that's the first impression.
If you talk to my Twilio cohort, if you talk to my Twilio cohorts, you'll hear about Twilio conversations as a way to engage with somebody over SMS, and you basically build out a conversation that they can follow, sort of a phone tree, but in text messages. And so you could plug that in as a data source that, hey, this person has engaged with us, they've told us this information, we can feed that into their customer profile, and it now connects with the data that the next time they use the website, we can leverage that information to help make their experience better.
But now this looks like CRM, customer relationship manager, like where do you keep the data in Segment, or it's flying through? Like, how does that differentiate for data warehouses and CRMs?
So a CRM would be a valid possible source and possible destination for us, depending on what part of the CRM you wanted to trigger. If you're just looking to store information in your CRM, then pushing it into Salesforce as a destination, that's how it would work. Segment would pass the data into Salesforce. However, you can also trigger certain things to happen And when you see those flows occur in Salesforce, you can pass that information in as a source. So even if we don't necessarily have a source built for whatever it is, I mean, there's a huge catalog out here. Once you've signed in and looked around, go check out our catalog and see all the integrations that are already built. There are over 400 out there that could be used in all sorts of different ways. But with the CRM, you kind of have the ability to maybe plug it in on both sides. There are some cases where some assembly is required, where you might have to build the connector because it doesn't exist yet. But there's a good chance, at least with the big name CRMs, that the data is already available, and it would just be a matter of plugging into the tool. Most of the configurations for sources and destinations, you can measure on the order of minutes or maybe a couple hours, rather than a bunch of other work that's required first.
And you asked what else would you like to need. Like, I'm totally like outsider. I have not used the tool, but I've been in industry for a long time. So these journeys look like a gold mine. Do we have a library of those, or I have to create my own? That's something that can be kind of copied from business to business, and you just plug in your data. And if you deal with, I don't know, new mothers versus retirees, or
yeah, I don't know that I've got a case where we've open sourced any specific journey flows. There are some example use cases you can click here to see in the docs where people have said, hey, here's an example of some things you might be able to do with it. But mostly these docs are positioned more as a way to make you think about what you might want to do and spark imagination rather than to give you sort of the playbook for running your business. We don't want to be in the business of telling you how to run your business. We just want to be in the business of helping you do it, effectively.
Wow. Anybody else? Like, was this a real, like, did you finish presentation, or it was just a point for us to get questions and you want to go deeper? Like, was this polite question, or you have something else to say? Am I interrupting you?
No, not at all, Daniel. It's always fun over these, remote calls when a little latency involved. As far as I'm concerned, I've finished presenting, and so I'm kind of just opening the floor here to see what we want to talk about.
Okay. So I will throw the mic to Andrew. I haven't seen him since before COVID. I think last time I saw in February, before they kicked us out of My Planet. So Andrew, welcome here with us. He has a company, so he could use something like this. He needs more business probably. Andrew, unless he walked away from the mic. You're on mute. Anybody else who has questions about how to use these products?
Well, I think it's cool. I just, the problem was I was pickling vegetables. So I only got half the information. And I know about Segment. So as far as I understand, Segment brings in data sources from all sorts of places. And then, as you said, marketers or sales team can set up those workflows. It's just, I need more examples.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, more examples. There are companies selling, like, I know, like, my wife is in real estate. They have these 33 touch point plans. They have businesses about making those touch points that you demonstrated. So I think if you find certain verticals for lawyers, how they deal with the client, somebody profitable, and then start selling those workflows, that's a gold mine.
So something I would like to know if there's integration for a Segment would be, so a very common, I have a learning management system, like that's what we have, we built it. And a standard that is part of most learning management systems is called an LRS, a learning record system. It's an open standard for tracking interactions of users. So I can say, okay, this student has put this amount of work into this course. Therefore, it's an opportunity, because we do free to watch courses, and so we upsell them on paid materials additional. So then for us, if we could pipe that into something like Segment, and then, you know what I'm saying, then there would be something reactive that we could do. But as you said, maybe you have to write a custom producer for that, eh?
Oh my God, this is why I love you, all the ideas. Go ahead, Ben.
That is a fantastic question. I guess it would be a counter question from me. How does the LRS I think I got the acronym right. How does that work? Is that something that you have access to the source code of, where you would be able to
Well,
inject, or?
So the thing is that there's an open standard to get data into it, but like it can be stored anywhere. And so one of the most common ways is a MongoDB database. So it would just be in a MongoDB database, but there is a very particular structure that data has to follow based on that open standard.
Yeah, so you may run into a some assembly required, because like whatever your format is, I don't know that we necessarily support that particular format in any of the destinations. Like if there's a product attached to it, then it's easier to say. But when you say it goes into a MongoDB and it just needs to be in a certain format, that may be something where you would assemble the format, and I'm pretty sure there's a Mongo in here someplace. Yep,
Ben,
I can
do
see
you
it.
have MongoDB as a source? He needs MongoDB as a source. We can solution it here for you, Andrew.
As a source.
There you go. So like if you want to add a connector, what is that like for MongoDB? Or sorry, was that in beta or sorry, preview, or is there a MongoDB connector?
And is it source or destination? That's another thing.
Good point.
I did not see one that's been fully assembled. I can bring that back to our product team and find out, and then I'll get back in
But
touch
also,
with
Andrew,
you.
if you have a front end, sorry, Andrew, if you have front end, is there a web app? He was talking about JavaScript. Maybe you missed that part. Maybe you can place JavaScript in the app.
Yeah, I mean, like we use Ruby. I mean, we could use. It doesn't really matter. Obviously, we could just put it in a function or something, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, like
it's like shopping cart. There is no difference between he watching something or buying something. It's a similar. You can have a similar behavior defined.
So, like, if you're implementing your own producer, what is it? Is it just a function that runs?
I don't know that, Ben.
Is it just an HTTP endpoint that it
Teach
calls?
us, Ben. How could we monitor the progress? It's like a shopping cart, but the longer you stay in there, the better you are. So there is time component associated.
Here, access the code from your website, track mission critical user activity from your servers, ability to write. If we were to click on the documentation on the left-hand side, just curious to see what the implementation is.
Certainly. We do have a Ruby version of our analytics library, so you should be able to plug that in. I don't know if it's like published as a gem in one of the big repositories, or if it's something local. I mean, we'd have to kick around. Oh, there it is.
I mean, I've used Segment before, so I'm pretty certain that it has one. I haven't tried to write my own producer though. I say producer, I don't know what you call them, but I'm just thinking event stuff. So
yeah,
scroll
when you first asked the question. When you first asked the question, it made me think of we use YouTube as a source as well, and what you do is you plug in events that tell like when somebody clicked a certain video and how long they watched it and things like that. So it's really just another use case for the methods within the analytics library to be able to say, this is the event that I want to track, and this is when it occurs, and this is when it stops occurring, and things like that. And then you would be able to push those events into whatever format you needed. So it would be building the connector there from whatever your platform is to be able to say, hey, this is when those things occurred, and then it just comes out the other side as options for whatever destination tool.
Yeah. For us, we actually have 3 different video. Like, if people go on the free tier, they move over to the other one, but it wouldn't really work for us because we need the LRS to be the record of truth, because then you will have inconsistencies between the main record store. But it's cool to know that it's there. But it seems like you just install it there. If you could just click on the step 4 there on the track actions there, be curious just to see what's under there on the right hand side.
Sure.
But yeah, okay, I get it. Yeah, I think Segment, the whole point of it, and Daniel, you correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the fact that the API, or even Ben here, is that the API is unified. So the idea is like you don't have to worry about
measurements and measurements, because before you joined, he was talking about how different developers call same thing differently, phone _ number phone. So it unifies that kind of mapping. that every database developer's face is going to give you, an DMV of the customer, and then a year later you still have the same problem.
Yeah. Now that I was just thinking about it, I actually wouldn't be using Ruby because it happens client side.
But you mentioned so maybe is there a way to add destinations? Maybe he needs to is MongoDB destination as well? I did not understand
because
it.
then you would be messing up the store, right? You put it somewhere else. So like, I mean, I don't know if it would come out the other end, but it would go. The idea is that we'd be reacting to things like information in the store, like, oh, the student got 25% through the course, and other metrics like that. There'd be no reason to put anything because that'd just be learning metrics.
So maybe we can reverse question to Ben, like, where are the customer stories, custom ideas? We need no imagination. We are geeks who like to solve, but like, we already jumped. This is as close as it gets to real meetups. Thank you, Andrew, for being here, and Ben for catering this.
So one of the things that Segment has available is the idea of a serverless function that you can build. So you can see like a new function created over here, and you can choose whether it's a source or a destination. We'll just pick source. And so you get the ability within your Segment instance to build a serverless function that acts as that source. And so this is the sum assembly required. We do try to make it as easy as possible, but you are ultimately responsible for building something, in a language and making sure the data gets where it needs to go. And then one of the things I would suggest is, if you're doing a lot of this, is to reach out through like your customer service, customer success manager people, to find out if the product team is looking into doing something a little more robust. So you'll get the ability to build your own and get it going. But it may be something that if we have a lot of demand for it, we would sort of slurp it into our catalog and say, hey, this is something that's then available. I've also talked to a couple of teams within Segment product that are working on the idea of open sourcing destinations. So they're creating what they call destination actions. And the idea is that there would be, a GitHub repository that Segment folks would be able to contribute to alongside you, and it would be an open source product. But that's somewhat under development. I think they've only had a couple examples that they've run through with some pilot customers right now. But that's something that's coming soon, is to engage better with the community, which personally I get really excited about. I love the idea when we're taking part of our system that customers really need to fiddle with, and giving them the ability to build something open source and we can share with each other. That's a lot more fun than, hey, I'll be happy to put this on the backlog, and then you have to wait till whenever they decide to prioritize it. So I'd love the idea of being able to spin up more of these kinds of spaces where you could you start by building a source function or a destination function, you get it working, and then you sort of push that over to your customer success manager and say, hey, this is a thing that we made, and let the product teams engage with you to figure out a great way to handle that, so that you're not stuck maintaining it forever.
Hey, Ben, you mentioned I think startup credits or something. Like half of the folks in the group are either failed startup owners like myself or successful ones like Andrew. So tell us more about not just the free option with 2 sources. What about startup credits?
Sure.
There was something Joe was talking.
Sure. Let me see if I can find that. Gosh, where's the Segment Startups program? Let me see.
You can send us links later, like if there is something that way you can.
But we actually have a startups program. It's designed for early stage startups. I can't remember what the numbers are, and I was hoping that maybe the here we go. Startups. So if you go to the Segment website and under customers, you can hit the startup link there. There is an application process where you can you get thousands of dollars. I think it was $25,000 of credit, like Segment credits. And then there's currently a special thing going on that if you're eligible for the startup program, you would get like $50,000 right now. in segment credits, along with access to other types of tools and technology that we make available, because we want to help those early stage startups get their customer data squared away, neatly. This is a common problem in that startup environment. You're searching for product market fit, and you're trying to do all this user research and figure out, where's our niche in the industry. And it's hard to do when the customer data sort of flies all over the place. And when you're hurrying to build your product, you don't want to divert those engineering folks to stop and solve your customer data problems with some kind of custom solution. So what we're trying to do is partner with those early stage startups as a way to help us, we'll get you started, and then later on we can develop a business relationship when it's more appropriate, and when you're past those stages where money is so tight. So if you want more information about that, by all means reach out to me, drop me a line, and I can connect you with the manager of our startups program. He and I just gave a presentation last week, actually, together. And so I don't have all of his details in front of me, but I'd be happy to connect you where you could learn more about that and how it could help your business.
Thank you. Any other questions or any other interesting things you want to show us? Anybody else? Noticing the recipes. Where are the recipes?
I found the page here. But...
Yeah, Andrew.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, there are recipes. Do you have a specific question on those, or was that just sort of a highlight thing that you wanted to...
Sorry, I got dogs here. The trick for me is, like, we have a bunch of tools, and our product marketer is always waiting on us to implement things, and it's very frustrating. But it's just the hardest part about Segment for me is just having examples to start immediately applying. Not that we need someone to custom fit it for our business, but the idea to, like, get in the groove of it, to go, okay, we kind of get it, so that we can move. But that's always the investment of getting over that hump, eh? So I don't know. I just think it'd be sweet to see more demos of workflows. I mean, you probably did a demo today, and I missed half of it. So that
no, you didn't. You came right at the beginning. We had technical difficulty. So I think, like, what I call journey, you call recipe. If you can kind of dive in some verticals and maybe focus with people. Andrew is the only business owner that spoke up here. Nikhil, like anybody else, Victor, Lucian, do you have any business you would like to automate or grow using the tool? We have free advice here with us. Anybody? Okay, then you will solve for Andrew. Recipes.
Yeah, and that would be another great reason to reach out to me, on the side as well. If you have ideas for what you'd like to see in a recipe, send me an email with how do I fill in the blank. I'm actually part of the team that reviews and posts recipes. So we're always looking for ideas for content that would be, effective at helping people out. That's the goal of even having them on the website. So I'd love to hear from you if you have an idea, like what's this thing, like how would I make it do this, and then we'll go pull the folks together who know all the details of it and build a recipe to put out there.
We still have some time. Like, if folks want to hang, maybe you can, in that main slide, you can click in some verticals and then kind of give us more ideas, because that one journey made my day. And who knows what else he will show us. I think Andrew is right. Like, we need somebody to drive. I've seen those fancy CRMs, and then you have to plan what the customer does, 30 days after birth of the baby. What does she need? When to nudge her again? How to do that? Like, so that's
sure.
just
So from a recipe perspective, most of what we have in the recipes library right now is about our partnerships with other tools. So if you think about it, that's really where Segment shines. It's in delivering data to other tools, not by itself. you don't just install a segment with no other tools in the ecosystem. It's a connecting, it's connective tissue, I guess would be the way I'd say it. So usually what you'll see as you dig through these recipes are the partners will write recipes for how to use their particular tool. And so one that popped into my head from recently that I thought was really interesting. Let me see, I think it was under analytics. Yeah, here we go. So real world context from Radar. This is a company that does radar location, like location enrichment, geofencing type things. So if you wanted the ability to see if I can get down to one of their screenshots that shows it off. Like, we want to know where a user is when they use our website. And so maybe I'm the guy at Walmart who runs all the things, right? And so I go to Walmart and I'm looking in the app because I want to see this product and compare it to this other thing that, okay, who else has this on sale or whatever. So this is the kind of real-time analytics that I can get based on when people use the app. Are they using it from within the store, or are they using it from somewhere else? And so if I can build those geofences using Radar, or I can use the ones that they have pre-configured, then I get the ability then to know this and make that part of my segment data. And so they give a great example here about how to build that out so that you get that location enrichment added to your product experience, where your customer now, gives you the information to say, I used your system from this, physical location. Another great one that we've been talking about, don't remember what section it's under. It's probably under marketing. There is a company called Recombe that they built a machine learning algorithm that provides like product recommendations. So I know that you've seen this, or I know you've clicked on this before, and they'll provide you, based on the data. So you train their algorithm and then plug it into your segment, and it gives you the ability to provide those personalized recommendations. So your website then can go ask Recombe to say, hey, give me the personalized recommendations for user Ben, and then Ben's user ID gets passed back over, and Recombe says, oh yeah, we've seen him go to these things, so we think he'll probably want these others. And so you get this machine learning algorithm that your engineers didn't have to build. You can just outsource that to these guys who have made this really awesome thing, and there it is. Let me see if I can find that. Maybe it's.
I had a question.
Here we go.
How do you spell recombine? Recombe.
Recombe,
Can you
right?
paste the link for that?
Just found it.
Yeah,
Sure. I'll drop that in the chat.
So I will share the links in the recording as well. And Andrew had a link here. What
I was
that
just
link?
looking at that one, but when I'm looking at it, the thing is, it shows you how to integrate like the recommended friend buy for stuff, but then it's just like the data's in, so I'm like, okay, what's the other end of it? And I think that's the thing, is maybe some of the recipes are just integration recipes as opposed to.
That's a journey you're talking about. So that's a journey. That was the flow diagram. What do you do at what point? So looks like we create audiences-based segments of audiences, and then we put them in some action plan with those. Is that how you want us to use segment, Ben?
Yeah, this is probably a weakness of our recipes, that we're just getting started with this content. We have some things out here, but we haven't really had a lot of focus on the recipes section of the website until the last couple of months, and we're starting to spin it up. And so this is where I was kind of hinting a little bit ago. I would love feedback on the kinds of recipes you'd like to see, or if you want to look through a recipe and go, oh, this is where it fell down, this is what I needed in order to really make this pop. I'd be happy to take that back to the team and even to the partner organizations. You mentioned FriendBuy, and I just worked with them to put this one out here last week or a week before. But the friend by recipe was written by the friend by team and just kind of handed over to us. I would love to partner with them and improve it, to say, hey, here's what our customers have said that they'd like to see more of, and we can build that out with them.
But if we if let's say you put the recipe in, what's the next step? Is it going into Segment and setting up a journey, or what is, or persona? What is the next step?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
From the friend by recipe, I'm not entirely sure. Let me see if I can.
No, in general,
refresh
I think, like once we have, I think he's asking general, we have different sources,
Yeah.
we identify segment to the audience. Now, that journey thing that you showed us was jaw-dropping. Can you talk more about that? Like, and then we'll figure out.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be friend by. I'm just trying to get the big picture of it, and
Sure.
I'm just like end to end, eh? So
That's a journey, I guess.
yeah. And
Yeah.
To me, based
so
on
if
what
you
I've
want-
seen in
yeah.
CRMs.
So the way that I would probably see that, and now I'm really going out where there are dragons. I may not be able to show off all of this because I'm not
Okay,
sure.
it's all-
I don't know
Alright.
what
It's all
access
good.
I've got to this environment, but I
This
will
is
be glad to
amazing.
go
This
as
is
far as I can. Yeah, so here's like your first store purchase, right? So first thing we would do is establish an audience. So under your profiles are individuals, audiences are groups of individuals. And so you build a group in your audiences. Maybe I need to go over here first, where I would say, here are the people that I think, meet the criteria I need. So here's one: buyers that use promo codes, right? So in order to look at this, I need all the users who completed at least one order and had a promo code on it, right? So when I do that, I can get this preview and pray, to the demo gods here. Okay, there you go. So this audience finds 17,000 test users in our system, and there's an example of who some of those people are. And so if I'm just playing in the tool, I get the ability to do some of the basic analytics here. I'm not gonna force you all the way out to an analytics tool to do anything to get insights. I'm gonna give you some of that information. So 100% user ID, 98.1% have an email address. And so I could overlap this with a different audience, or I could, start to compare notes there and see if I'm onto something. Does this make sense as far as a way to market? Is this a campaign that I even want to try to run? And so I would build out those kind of things, excuse me, playing in the tool. But once I have the audience created, and I have this, I'm trying to see which button it is. Okay, so if I go into journeys, and then I say, ask for product reviews. So this would be an audience that was created where I said purchasers in the last month who have not returned the purchase. So you can see the rules there for it. They have not refunded the order. They've completed the order. I'm going to send to the destinations, or I'm going to send to a destination. So in this case, I'm using Braze. To ask purchasers to give a product review. And there's the part where I don't have access. I found the line. I can't cross that line.
Ben, people are asking for bigger
Right.
font. If you can zoom a little bit, like
Oh, sure. Let's see. That good, or do I need to go further?
that's good to me.
Okay.
Sure.
And then whoa, here, zoom. All right. Please excuse me while I learn to use my browser's magnification settings. So I would send that over to Braze, and I would say, ask for product reviews. And so I would pass over the audience that's already been defined within the segment, the 17,000 people from that previous one that we looked at. So send that out. And so Braze is going to go ask them all for product reviews. And then I tell segment, wait for 3 days. And look for the ones who still haven't completed a review. And let's check. the other side,
How do you
if
connect?
they always, oh, go ahead, Simone.
So sorry, you mentioned Facebook ad, like that Facebook connector. So that's targeted to specific ad campaign. Like it's the same logo for different Facebook ads. How do you choose which specific one?
How do I choose? Well, when you're using
Yeah,
Facebook as a
shared
destination, then you're passing them the data. So you're passing in the group of people. So in this case, I'm using the Facebook destination, and I'm saying I want to send an ad to the people on this list or to the audience cohorts on this list. However, the data is sliced up already. So you might look at it and say, this type of user is the one that I want. You might look at it otherwise and say, no, I want to use like individuals from my customer base. So I could look at it either way and start to build that out.
So the question was,
Am I still here?
yeah, you are. So my question was like, do you have to have ads prepared? Because they have ads planned, different letters, campaigns. So you have to be the first thing in that, or it's a generic connector to Facebook, and then somebody dispatches which ad, which day, which target audience.
I'm going to claim a little ignorance here that I have not actually ever advertised anything on Facebook, so I don't know what the policy is on the Facebook side as far as, do you set up like things that catch those connections, or do you just send it from here? But it would be whatever your standard, like go ask the marketing people who advertise on social media, like do paid advertisement on social. They'll tell you exactly how they do it and what that needs to look like. And in this case, it plugs into whatever that interface is.
Okay, so it's like email campaign. They would give you the template and you would plug it in here. So some MailChimp templates may be welcome, the other maybe give me a review.
So
Yeah.
I guess my thought is like, would Segment replace functionality that you might have to do on a premium tier for like a mail client? Because
Yes.
when you have mail, oh sorry, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
I think yes. That's what
yeah.
I've seen.
So then you could just use something like SendGrid and then rely on this to have a more robust system that can connect with more stuff.
Yes.
That's
what I've
Yes.
seen.
So rather than building out that whole email campaign on your own, you could use a SendGrid instance, and SendGrid is actually a segment destination. We plug them in together. So you could certainly do a SendGrid that would receive whatever from the segment side that says, here's what I want to go out. And so it's just a matter of connecting those two dots.
That is so cool. I got too excited about this. It reminds me of helping those marketers.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Back out here.
Like we still have 20 minutes left. Not too many people stayed, but you can do surveys, so you have good odds to get Manning product. That's a short link. Your screen is frozen, Ben. No? Okay. Or you're just quiet. I know.
I was just quiet for a minute. Yeah. I was waiting to see if we had any more questions.
So you used the term campaign at one point. What is campaign in segment terms?
So when I said that a minute ago, I was referring to the idea of a marketing campaign. So whatever it is that the marketers want to do, they want to send an email to certain people who meet certain criteria, or they want to engage over SMS with people, or they want to put out a paid advertisement. And this is one of the things that personally I find rewarding about working with Segment. When you personalize, you're saving your company money, because you pay for those like Facebook ads by the impression. And so you put a budget out there and you say, okay, Facebook, you keep advertising this to people and hit this many impressions, because that's what we're willing to pay for. And if you think of that, you're sort of just blasting away at the world. Anybody want to buy my thing, right? And boom, boom, boom. Let me throw stuff out there as much as possible. With a product, you get the ability to be more targeted, and you say, hey, I'm only going to send this ad to people that I already know care about the product. So I want to let them know, hey, we're having a sale on this thing. I don't want to just let anybody know, because they probably don't want one of these. But if I can tell you, based on your experience with me, the customer, then I've seen you interact with this product before. Maybe you put it in a shopping cart and you forgot to check it out, or you decided you had that buyer's remorse, right? I'm not checking that out. No, that's too expensive. Well, if I can drop the coupon on people that I already know really want the product, I'm more likely to make sales. And so anything I can do to personalize that data helps me as a marketer, or helps me as a person in the company to make the company better. But it also makes my experience better for my customers, because on the other side of that fence, if I receive personalized ads, I'm more likely to engage with them. If I receive ads for things I don't care about, like that's the first way to make me angry. Why do I have so many ads on this thing? I just wanted to go, scroll my feed for a while, and I'm being bombed with all these things I don't care about. So the targeting thing, some people think of it as, oh, it's creepy that they can personalize like that. The third party cookies are creepy. When you're grabbing someone else's cookies in order to see data about a person. But the first party data, that's just good customer service. It's the same as if I walk into a store and they know me by name already. Because I've been there
terms
before.
first customer data, third party. Can you explain that to the rest of the audience?
Sure. So first party data is data that your customers give you directly. They might go fill out a profile on your website when they set up their login. Then you have the fields there that say, here's my name, here's my social media profiles, all this stuff about me. I can upload a photo with my avatar, whatever I want on there. Third party data is data that I have purchased as a marketer. I have purchased from someone else. So if you think of like Google tracking cookies or things like that, where I've gotten the data from another source and I've incorporated it into what I'm doing. Gosh, there was a funny cartoon about this where it was like, the difference between first party data and third party data is, hey, I saw you looked at gym clothes last week. You should probably go to the gym today. That's first party data. Third party data is, I saw you looked at gym clothes and didn't buy them. You must be fat, right? So it's sort of that difference in the inference that gets made based on the data. That's the kind of thing we want to avoid, because the third-party data stuff can get really creepy, and that's usually what you see privacy concerns in the news and watchdogs fussing about. Is third-party data is very invasive. First-party data, on the other hand, that's just interactions that you have with your customer, learning from the experience of interacting with them. That would be that's like I said, it's going into a store and they know my name already and they greet me, hey Ben, how are you doing today? How's the family? They know these things about me because they've seen me before, because we've interacted before, and that can build a really positive experience for a customer. So those are the kind of things we want to promote, while the third-party things are actually being locked down by most countries now. As you start to look at GDPR in Europe, and some of the privacy things that are coming out now in the United States, Google has already told us they're going to eliminate third-party cookie availability in browsers. I think they pushed it out to 2024. But it's coming soon, where those third-party cookies are not going to be accessible anymore, because they're going to turn on privacy mode for people using their browsers. So that's a thing that marketing teams are starting to look at and go, things are going to change on us, and we have to figure out how to do better in the new world. This is a great opportunity for me to plug Twilio Signal this year. It's our conference. It's in the beginning of November. and it's absolutely free. So if you drop by the Twilio site and search for Signal, I guess I could probably pull up a link here.
And you mentioned it's virtual this year, so we don't have to travel to San Francisco.
Yes, absolutely. It is completely free. It is completely virtual. And I am dropping a link in the chat for you now.
With all the tracking. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
I'm kidding. I'm
Yes.
kidding, so you can know.
Probably should have removed that, but I was in a hurry.
No, that's fine. So we still have a couple. Go ahead with questions. We still have a couple of minutes for the Wheels of Name, for the Manning raffle. Only 5 of you gave names, so I added Ben and Andrew as well. So I have Jason, Lucian, Jessica, Nikhil, Sherry, and I added Ben and Andrew. Anybody else wants to be in the Wheels of Name, you can put your name here in the chat. Really good odds today to win something from Manning. They don't have Twilio books yet, so maybe time you write one. And then I think because so this was inspired by Joe Amison's visit when he was talking how Segment helped his business. When he comes, Andrew, he's coming in October to talk about branch insurance, and he wrote the book about it, and it's now a unicorn, 1 billion valuation startup. We're gonna ask him about the journeys he's using.
Cool.
So make sure you visit us in October. And so who else wants to name? I will start sharing then. Share. So anybody else does not see their name here? Nobody? So let's do the spin. Let's be quick. Good luck. Jessica from, are you with us? Jessica is still here? Yeah, you are. I see you. Congrats. So you will send me your email. Actually, we connected on LinkedIn. I saw that. And then you're going to choose any products of liking from manning.com. Anything, and then it can be book, video lecture, or labs, like they have courses. And then let me know. I'll introduce you with the folks of Manning to move it to your dashboard. So that's it from me. And any other things like Andrew, thank you for showing up. Like you woke up the memories of real meetups, and that's how I started. Like all the questions to Ben after the presentation. Anybody else? Hugo, you didn't finish the photo. What did you want to talk to us on that? Do you see any topics out of the bed that you would like to talk at these meetups?
Nothing really jumps out right now, but I think one of the conversations that may help will be something around reliability, just around.
We think alike. Okay, so I like that. We did have SRE talk, but until I kind of got them, they resigned Google, so they work for Honeycomb. So it's Googlers at Honeycomb, and it's time we have somebody from Google talk about SRE. It's been a while, so that can be a good topic. I'm especially, I think, curious personally about calculating SLOs and SLIs. Yeah, so that's something that's ambiguous. Yeah, and so that can be something. Andrew, what would you want Google to talk? He can make a course on that and sell it.
To get what Google to talk about?
Yeah. Hugo is from Google. Like we're just pitching the topic. Hey, you can talk something. You spoke twice at the meetups. You're long overdue to talk again.
It's a serverless strong user group, so more things on serverless. I'm just trying to think here. Like, what do I want to know? I've been doing I don't know if you know this. I've actually been doing all the Google Cloud challenges. I've been reporting them every week.
That is so cool. You can paste the link here.
Oh yeah, nobody knows about it. Sweet. So I'm going to plug Google here for a moment. So Google Cloud is. I'm going to first get the link here. Google Cloud Challenge Learning Forum. And this is probably the link here. Sorry, I'm so slow. Computer is really not cooperating here. I'm just trying to find the link. So, and here it is. Okay. So there's a forum in the learning forums for Google, and they've been posting every single week.
Didn't see it. I
I'm
don't
sorry.
see it.
I'm talking while I'm buying myself
Okay,
time.
okay,
So I just
okay.
pasted it in there. You might have to scroll up a bit, but because I might have got the bad anchor on that. But anyway, so for 10 weeks, Google is doing this thing called Google Cloud Challenge. And the idea is that they present with you a random challenge. Well, not random, but a prepared challenge. And you spin up a Google Cloud sandbox, and then you have to solve it. And if you complete all 10 challenges, I guess you get a virtual badge. But I've been using it as a means to just get better at using Google, because that's the cloud I need to improve the most on. And the first challenge was actually written by me. So it's not that hard, but I don't know. Like I think what I'm mostly interested with Google is like database solutions. So there's Spanner. I've heard of AlloyDB, and I just don't know the benefits of, like, you know, like there's, what is it, Firestore. Firestore is supposed to be really amazing. I wish I knew more about that. So if there was like a product focused one around databases, that'd be really interesting, because like, you know, I just know that, you know, like Spanner sounds really cool, but we use RDS and I don't want to go to Aurora, and Spanner sounds like it just scales. But I don't know, something like that.
That's choosing use cases, how to choose which database is good fit for you. Like Amazon had something similar when to use DynamoDB versus something else. So maybe the decision graph that is part of professional's exam before they drop the price in Spanner.
And actually, you know what? Google just released a new exam, or I don't know if it's just, it maybe just got out of beta, but it's the Google database.
Database,
Something professional. So
that's,
I mean,
not
that's
bad topic. That's not. Hey, maybe we can call. What was the name of Dan, the guy who was writing books? He had some books on Google certification. Maybe we can invite him to talk about that. Anthony
recently sat that exam, so like he knows about. He's in Toronto. I don't know if he likes doing Agile, so I don't know if he'd come out and do it. Robin, my friend Robin, he knows a lot about Google Cloud, but I don't know if he knows much about databases. But yeah, I'd love to know more about.
Hugo is from Google. He can find anybody. So. Yeah. This is cool. Thank you. But it doesn't have to be Google. It just happened that Hugo is here. Like I thought you were still Amazon. I did not know. Well, last time we spoke about Amazon. Cool. Anything else? We are almost 8 o'clock. So Eastern. Ben, I want to thank you a lot for joining us. And this was like so casual, like almost like as close as you get to real meetups with all the ups and downs and technical problems.
Yeah, thank you for the invite. I really appreciate it, and it was really cool to hang out. I'd be happy to. I can join you again sometime.
Thank you. Literally hang out. That's a feeling. So casual. Thank you. Thank you. And everybody helped. And anybody else? Any closing thoughts?
So Sherry's asking, is it platform independent? Oh, sorry. Are we talking about Google Cloud, the Google Cloud Challenge? It's just, if we're talking about that, it's just Google Cloud.
And if it's segmented, it is, hey, where do you run? Like, is that important? Like a place where I work, they often ask, like, what is it running on? Like, do you choose? Can I say I wanted this cloud, or segment has to run in certain cloud? That's question to Ben.
Segment runs in its own private space. We keep that, you know, internal.
You host it internally.
It's internally hosted, but we do offer regionalization. So one of the things you can do with a professional plan is you can pick whether you want your data to be housed in Europe or United States or wherever is appropriate. We only offer a few things, but we're expanding those right now.
So Twilio didn't make you host it in the clouds that they're hosting. You're still like Algolia, your own cloud, your own hosting.
I don't know what the Yeah, I don't know what the decision was there.
Okay.
That was before I joined the company.
That was just
So yeah.
okay. Cool. And then about the data residency, like the save data. So we give you customer data. Is it hosted in your system, or it's passed through and you delete it like after 24 hours, like Fivetran, or how does it work?
So we do actually maintain a history of what was sent to us. And that's the reason for the regional hosting is that segment, while segment is generally just piping, we do have that data in your segment instance. And it's stored actually in a feature that we provide that we will replay. So for instance, if you were using one product and you wanted to replace it with a different one as a destination, then when you spun up your new destination, you could hit replay and all of your customer data would be forwarded there. So it wouldn't be like, there's not a data loss problem. How do I migrate from system A to system B? You get the ability then to replay all history that's been captured.
And so we still have a couple of minutes. So I did ask you about competitors. Like, you're the creator of the new space. Buzzword did not even exist before segment. So Ida, she left us. He says they were looking into some CDP. So everybody claims they do CDPs, but who are your real competitors? Like, I'm not talking reverse ETLs.
I guess just between us chickens, probably like your rudder stack is probably like one of the most serious competitors. Rudder stack, RUDDER stack. I'm trying to think. There were a couple other names that were thrown at me by coworkers that have now escaped me. What we have seen in the CDP space is that there are a lot of companies that are trying to jump board with the idea that the acronym is taking off. The buzzword is becoming a thing that people talk about. Oh, you need a CDP. And so there's a lot of people standing up going, well, we'll be your CDP. And they're not necessarily. Usually we see that with data warehouses. Data warehouses try to advertise themselves as CDP, but what they're missing is the ability to do things in real time. So when you send the data to a data warehouse, you could treat it kind of like CDP, but with a CDP, with an actual CDP, you get the ability to use data real time in flight. That's like segment will offer you the ability to do instantaneous things with it. When you have to pipe it through a data warehouse, try to use a data warehouse as your CDP, you then have all those reverse ETL type processes like that you have to wait for time to crunch the things and data and format and all that happens, and so you lose that real-time ability. And that's been a major distinction you've seen.
I'm not associated segment in any way, just indirectly through the same Twilio friends we have. But what I've seen, like as a data architect, data engineer, I've seen everybody's like, let's build CDP. What I've seen today, the jewel is that the journey of the customer, that the flow, that you need no coding, that no developer will give you that intelligence. So if you, like, that's what I've seen different today versus yesterday before you presented this to me. I don't know, does it make any sense?
It is definitely a major part of what we're trying to promote, primarily because it's so low code. You're down at the point where you can turn the business unit loose in the product and let them build things without engineering helping. Engineering is responsible for connecting the wires, and then after you can sort of let the business unit function on its own, which having spent time in the engineering world, corporate IT kind of world, that is a wonderful, because you don't want to be attached to those kind of projects. There's all the other things that are on your plate, and just piling on another project from marketing to help them connect the dots on this. It's very much appreciated that we could just sort of self-service that. I'll go build what you need.
That is cool, because like as an engineer, we like to build connectors. You see how we were drawn immediately where we can code the unfinished rough edges. But that's not where the business value is for somebody hiring us. Like I'm joking, Andrew, with Joe Emison, like when you look at the job posting of branch insurance, like there is no tech. Everything's like maybe front-end guys. The rest is like business folks that sell insurance, that kind of buy you insurance. And I'm joking that his serverless definition is jobless because he does the work, plus every service that he outsources to does the work. So he pays Segment, whatever he pays them to do that, but you are his IT. And Fivetran and BigQuery. And that's how I see it. Andrew, any final comments? I'm going to use you as a John. You're one of the old timers. And Nikhil, you too. Any closing thoughts from the core group?
No, I just felt that the content today was just great. Like not just, I mean, Ben's presentation, but just the discussion we had particularly in the last 20 minutes has been really good.
But you didn't get the book.
I did not, just missed it. That was the next name on the list, but
thank you.
It's okay.
Thank you so much. And we're lucky, like Ben is a friend, like, so I feel at ease to ask questions. Andrew, any final thoughts from you?
I got kids running around everywhere.
Lucky you.
I was lucky. I captured as much information here today as I could.
Cool. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, everyone, for showing up. And hopefully this will be useful for people watching this on YouTube. And we will reach out to you.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.